Good evening and welcome to VI Voices. I'm Emile Henderson III along with Clint Ferris, Boyd McFarlane, and Yoki Hanley. We're here continuing our election coverage tonight as we have with us on the show tonight. We're going to have Omar Henry, who's seeking the Democratic Party's nomination to the 31st Legislature of the Virgin Islands. We have Neville James, who's doing the same thing. As you know, he has been a senator before, and he's running again. And we will also have Senator Sammuel Sanes, who is seeking re-election. They'll be on tonight. But before we get to them, we will start off with our hot topics as we do every show. And Judge Lewis has issued her decision in the matter regarding Soraya Diassi-Kofelt and John Canigata. And Judge Lewis has stated that she is denying the requested permanent injunction, and that basically means that Soraya Diassi-Kofelt and John Canigata will not be on the November ballot for governor 2014. And you know, I read the opinions, 41 pages long, and Judge Lewis is one of those very thorough jurists who's explained every single thing as to why she's doing, and I can't necessarily believe that I disagree with her. What's important that she notes, though, is that there really is no direct prohibition on mixed parties running together. However, when you continue to read further along, what she did is gave deference to the supervisor of elections on interpreting and setting policies for purposes of the ambiguity. Right. And in essence, what she puts in here is kind of gives our legislature a framework to now go and fix or correct that so that it will no longer be ambiguous.
But it's the same legislature. It is the same legislature that created the morass that we're in right now. Because I can recall, and I think I may be right about this, that all of this issue came about when then Senator U.C. Richards started to bring several reforms to the election system. He brought from this particular reform, and the next one was actually disenfranchising voters who didn't vote in 2 general elections. So those are part of the parcel. And at that time, and I think all of this was around Norman Jean-Baptiste and a whole heap of issues that were taking place at that particular time. But it's also the same Democratic Party who allowed this to take place, because most of the people who voted for Senator U.C. Richards' proposal at that time were Democrats. So,
well, a lot of things for them now is to just tighten it up and make sure that little snafus like this don't happen in the future. But we'll see, because I mean, you know, who's going to benefit in the long run?
The thing that puzzles me is her reaction towards it, or what she's saying on the news regarding the decision. Her reaction towards it is like, oh, well, she doesn't understand why they don't just like go to the people, and why the people then don't just decide.
But it's clear, it's ambiguous.
But that's the point that I'm making. And she should know better, being an ex-judge. She's talking about why they just allow her to go to the people, because we're the better team, and she's acting as though it's like somebody or the community or some ghost have something against their team.
But she has said so before. She has come up publicly and said that, you know, there is a smear campaign, that people are against her. She's not saying who they are, you know, and to be honest, I don't know if I want a conspiracy theorist sitting to run the land.
She's too much. She's a sprat in this particular race. People have other big fish to worry about.
I believe that challenges are good in any democracy, and that's what we should be able to do, make challenges so we can, or else if she didn't do this, the issue to the forefront in regards to the ambiguity would not have come
up. And the challenge itself was a valid one, in my opinion. The challenge was valid.
Absolutely.
But because it was valid, I don't think it's necessary for her to be saying the things that she is.
And that's my response to Boyd, is that we must have, she's talking about a conspiracy. Now, and if she was a big fish in this race, maybe there was some conspiracy would be afoot.
Perhaps.
But no, she's a sprat. She does not matter in the race, whether she's in it or not.
So the conspiracy happening with other candidates and other...
Well, let's talk about that, because now we read today in the paper that there was now once again another election challenge, this time where, one, Molito Smith has filed an election challenge with the supervisor of elections regarding the residency of Basil Otley to run.
I would like to know what his contention is specifically.
His contention, as I can gather, is that Basil Otley is not a resident
of
the territory, and therefore...
No, but remember now, Basil was working in 2008.
But then Donna can't run either.
No, but hold on. No.
Her residence is here.
He is here, because remember, she got elected and went to work in Washington. No, in 2008, Basil abandoned his post and went, because remember that point is Patrick Simmons spoke. Hey, he abandoned the post.
He upgraded to
upgraded what? We elected the man, wait until the term done and then leave office.
He's only human. He don't have a right to go and better himself.
Well, that's not the issue. The issue with Melito Smith is
Thank you.
that he's not a resident.
Correct.
That's what I can gather from the story today. But the issue is going to be, well, I think it's going to be easily discernible. If he's voted in the elections here, he hasn't changed his residency here, he's paid his taxes here, then he is. But my only question is, why are you going to wait until a month before the Democratic primary to launch his challenge? Did you not know that they were running?
Exactly.
According to the laws, I think it's like 5 days after they filed Section
They
11
have
says
10
something
days.
about 5 or 10 days.
10 days to file a challenge after the nomination is
Right,
going
but it's at the period
and then
gone.
5 days after. Yeah, but if it's illegal, it's illegal.
Okay.
Correct.
And so that 5-day, 10-day thing wouldn't matter, which is why I didn't understand Donna Christensen's and Pastor Otley's response to that.
No,
their response should have been, "No, I'm a resident."
And that's it.
And then force the election system to exercise due diligence to research.
But that's what the supervisor of election said. She
said that if we certify them, then that means
they're
that they're
fine.
No, that's
No. Honestly, and that's my problem. Because he's taking the same position that the previous election supervisor would have taken. No. You're there to do a job. If they say establish residency, you need to at least say, okay, we're going to find out, because technically the man worked out of the territory for at least two out of the last 5 years.
There should not have been a response from her until she issues her written response to Mr. Smith.
Correct.
And the response should have been no comment. Until I made a decision as to what to do with that.
But the
fact
fact
that we did it, the means that they did it.
So the fact is that she did respond, and her response was well. He said her response was like, okay, we allowed it to go through, so that should.
But doesn't make it right, though.
But I'm not saying that it makes it right.
But that's not. What you have to do is, if she wants to make herself completely distant,
no comment
from what the prior supervisor election was, that led to all kinds of confusion,
no comment.
Then she needs to be able to say no comment, so that when she does comment, she can say, no, based on my investigation, we figured that he voted in this election, he maintained his residency here, and therefore our initial determination is correct, and I'm not accepting your challenge.
And correct.
That's what she should have done.
And basically, he could have voted in one election, still voted in another, and then he could have filed.
Well, that's true too.
Correct. But it's up to her to exercise.
The issue she has to investigate. That's the key. A challenge comes in, no matter what we think about the challenge, investigate the challenge and make it clear so that people are comfortable with whatever decision it is that you come up with.
Got you.
Right. Now we have Emmett Hansen. Yeah.
From Dallas?
From Dallas. Does that team win? Emmett Hansen, right? That's your team? Dallas Cowboys?
49ers, big man. 49ers.
They're not from 49ers.
Joe Montana, Jerry Rice.
I digress. Okay, I digress.
Okay.
He has now filed a complaint with the FEC, the Federal Elections Commission, claiming that Stacey Plaskett has utilized government resources in violation of the law. If that has occurred, then it has every right for this issue to be investigated. But I'm trying to figure out what is the purpose of him doing it.
He's running the same race with Stacey Plaskett.
Remember, you asked him, or no, it was you.
Yes,
you said to him that he was the one in the back.
Let's
respond and say, no, I'm not.
But you know what? Let's be honest, really and truly. The front runner, from what we're all seeing, is Stacey. Whoever can dethrone Stacey, then you have the option for the rest. Then it's more like an almost even playing battlefield for everybody else. But right now, if you're really taking the pulse of the people, Stacey Plaskett is a front runner.
Because she's a substantive candidate.
Exactly.
You see, she's a substantive candidate.
She's a front runner.
She's demonstrated that.
So the point is to go and dethrone her now.
But see, my thing is, I'm concerned. No sooner than we hear, Stacey's connected to John DeYoung, literally she's connected to John DeYoung. And to me, I am very concerned here. Because if you think, let's go back to our issue right here. Let's talk about the RT Park Amendment.
The Malone Amendment?
No, let's call it the RT Park Amendment.
Let's call it the Malone Amendment.
15 senators. 15 senators vote for it. And the governor's lapdog, Sammuel Sanes, voted against the governor. Sammuel Sanes does not vote against John DeYoung.
Can you just call him Senator Sanes?
I call him, whatever I call him, Senator Sammuel Sanes, the lapdog.
Oh, Lord.
On that note, we're going to return. When we return, we're going to have with us Mr. Omar Henry, who is seeking a seat in the 31st Legislature of Virgin Islands. We'll be back in a moment.
Amen.
Good evening and welcome back to VI Voices. We have with us Mr. Omar Henry, who is seeking the Democratic nomination to the Senate of the 31st Legislature of the Virgin Islands for the general election in 2014, November 2014, but he will be a part of the primary come August 2nd, 2014. Welcome, Mr. Henry.
Thank you.
This is your first time on VI Voices?
This is my first time.
Well, not your first time being at the show to see a taping.
Yes.
Right, okay. And so let me just welcome you, and we're going to just go through the process and talk a little bit about you and who you are and why you're running. So let everybody know who you are if they don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And let them know why you're running for office.
Well, my name is Omar Henry. I'm currently a teacher at the Career and Technical Education Center that is at the St. Croix complex. And I am a devoted and committed Democrat. And I am number 10 on your primary ballot comes August 2nd.
Okay. Well, good. Now, talk to us a little bit about, and I want to jump right into that.
Yeah.
You're no stranger to the political scene.
No.
This will be your first time, if you are elected, your first time as a senator.
Yeah.
But this is not your first time working in the legislature or being a part of the political process, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
And so, one of the big issues that we have right now that's facing us is the issue regarding the economy.
Yes.
And one question I think everybody wants to know is, what is your plan for economic stimulation or revenue generation of new money to the territory?
Well, I think that we should feed ourselves. And so I'm going to propose the farm plan, which I have it here, a farm plan. This plan should include what should be produced, what resources are available, when will the process begins, what is the price of the quantity, and what is expected for the yield and the return. So that's what I am going to introduce the farm plan, because in the Virgin Islands we don't have a farm plan. So if we don't have a farm plan, we cannot feed ourselves.
No, Mr. Henry, no, I'm one who believes that every year it's fashionable. Every election is very fashionable to hear senators and aspirants talk about agriculture.
Yes.
Now, when do we stop talking about it and do it? And who's to say that you're the man that can get it done?
Because I have a plan. This time, I have a plan, and I'm going to present that plan.
I've heard many men come with plans, but when they go into the legislature and that plan is put on the shelf. Now, those plans were like a promise to a virgin and prom night.
Yeah, but
what happened then?
Yeah, but I have not seen anyone offer a farm plan. I've never seen that. They talk about agriculture, but they never talk about a farm plan.
Luther Rene, when Luther Rene was in this legislature, I think he got elected in 2002, he put forth agriculture as a major plan.
That's correct.
And then it was then dismissed.
And then he wasn't re-elected.
So,
but now he's in agriculture.
Okay, so your position currently is that you have a plan and you're willing to put this plan forward. The first
That's
thing.
correct.
The first thing you're going to do is you're going to
and what's the plan?
generate.
What's the plan?
Yeah, the farm plan.
Yeah, the farm plan. But what is it? What is it?
It is to help us to produce agricultural stuff so that we can feed ourselves.
How would we
so that we could begin to produce. You know, when tourist comes, you know, it reminds me during Hurricane Marilyn, when those people from the National came, I took them to Club Comanche, and what they were asking me if the meat came from here. the vegetable came from here. And I could not tell them no. I told them yes. And I knew that we were not producing those things. So when you have tourists that comes here or anyone that comes to visit the Virgin Islands, they want to taste what grows here. And so
you started off by saying you are the voted Democrat, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Your plan is the farm plan, and you intend to push that when you first go in, correct?
That's correct.
All right. How you intend to sell that to the St. Thomas Senate to get on your side? You willing to compromise whatever it is you're dealing with to go along with the Democrats over there who has a strong power or a strong hold in St. Thomas?
No. I am not willing to compromise. I always will remember that the people of the Virgin Islands is the people of St. Croix would be my boss. So I'll come to them if I cannot get the assistance or support for my bill.
So the economy, your plan to have new revenue generation is agriculture.
Agriculture.
Okay, so I want to move on to something else, so we have some more time.
Yeah.
Since we talk about agriculture,
yes.
ask your question.
Thank
It's kind of in line with that.
Thank
so
you.
ask your question.
Thank you. Yes, as Emile said, in line with agriculture, you're noticing in the states that we have 23 states now that have legislation for medical marijuana usage.
Yeah.
And you know that Senator Nelson currently has several bills in place to push forward that. Should you become a senator, are you in favor of decriminalization or legalization, especially taking the fact that Jamaica has already moved forward with decriminalization of marijuana?
And it goes back to my first answer. We have to feed ourselves. So we need to concentrate on growing stuff that we can feed ourselves. And at the same time, we can also export food.
Okay, I'm not eating marijuana.
Yeah.
So let me make sure. I know you can, but I won't be doing it.
Okay.
So I guess her question was, are you right now possession of marijuana in the territory is illegal?
That's
right?
correct.
And what she's asking is, do you support decriminalizing marijuana, which is kind of like making like a civil penalty if you're caught with it, or outright legalizing it so that it's like alcohol, where you can buy it in a store as long as it's properly regulated?
And then we can incorporate it into your farm bill.
Yes.
Well, I would say no.
Okay. To both?
To both?
Yeah.
To both. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Alrighty. Now let's talk about education. What do you have? How do you see yourself playing a role in changing the trajectory of where we are right now with our education system?
Currently, we have a district superintendent of education. And that's the superintendent of St. Croix. And that's only one person. And I think the way to improve the educational system and for our students to benefit, I think instead of one superintendent, two. One for the secondary, junior secondary, high school, and the second one will concentrate on elementary. So that's what I would propose.
So you're talking about bringing some level of reform to the education system.
Yeah.
So you're talking one of let's look at how Department of Education function.
Yeah.
Now, and that's whatever your first say. But what about the Board of Education? How do you now make the Board of Education also function within this system instead of presently it functions off to the side?
Yes.
Would you invite them to be a guest at the party? Or do you just keep them where they are?
No. They're a stakeholder, and an important stakeholder. So yes, I would keep them in the loop.
But how would you? Do you want to? Because we talk about shifting governance.
Yeah.
Shifting governance from the Department of Ed to the Board of Ed, and putting more power into a non-political authority that can manage the school and do certain function and creating maybe a leveled system. Because right now we have a flat system. Is that something you will entertain down the road with some of the reforms that you're talking about?
Let me say this. Right now, the system that we know, we operate on a national model. The national model says this: if you are quote-unquote academically inclined, you go on the left side. If you are not academically inclined, you go on the right side. But this is what I would like to propose, the international model, which says that even though you are academically inclined, all students must take up academic and career and technical.
But isn't that how it used to be before?
Exactly.
That's what it was
exactly.
like before. But
Exactly.
So everybody left with a marketable trade, whether you went to college or not.
Yes.
And somewhere along the line that changed.
So then you would be in favor of reinstituting and giving more power to the vocational board then? And how would they function in this new system of education that you're talking about?
Yeah.
So you're saying the primary issue regarding the education department or the Department of Education, you're a teacher, the primary issue, what is it and what you intend to do to fix it? In your opinion, what do you think it is?
The primary issue is that you have a disjoint between academic and career technical education.
Something you just talked about.
Yeah, because when a student go into carpentry and is studying a certain math, a skill by hand, that student only applies it to that. But when that student goes for math, even though they are the same skill, they cannot see the correlation between the both.
But let me say this again. Let's go back to your first statement you made. A part of your first statements that you did make. You said you are a loyal Democrat.
Yes.
Loyal Democrat. And the devoted loyal Democrat.
Yeah.
And one of the things I have to say is that for the past 7.5 years, the Democratic Party has been sticking it to me as a working man in this community. So what is going to change with you as a Democrat in the Senate? Democrats cut my salary by 8%. Democrats increased the gross receipts by 0.5%. Are you going to be the type of Democrat that we must fear and must be concerned about come 2015?
Well,
0.05.
No, it's 0.5%.
0.05.
It's 0.5.
Student funding,
0.05? 0.5?
No, 0.5 is 50.
No. Okay, you're right. Okay, the point. Okay, I understand. 0.05.
Yeah.
Okay, but okay. You know which one? I understand what you're
Either which one.
So I said 0.5%.
0.05. So it went from 4.5 to
5%. So we won't argue, but I will tell you.
No,
I didn't give wrong information. I was correct, but go ahead. Go ahead.
you said that
Are you going to be the type of Democrat who has just under his boots?
Or the 30th legislature?
No.
Passed.
Democrats. Governor John DeYoung was a Democrat.
Right.
You have a majority. They have a majority of Democratic senators in the legislature. You had majority Democrats in the previous legislature. You had majority Democrats in the previous legislature before that and before that. It has always been Democrats.
And you also have independent.
But the majority has been held by Democrats. We have been a democratic rule government for at least consistently the past 8 to 10 years in government house as well as in the Senate.
Yeah.
You know, there have been times where they brag that they have an unbreakable veto-proof majority. So his question is, as a Democrat, and since the Democrat has been showing that they're cutting the throat of the working man and woman. That's what the Democrats are being known for, cutting the throat of the working man and woman, making sure that the budget is balanced on the working man and woman.
I would not say that the Democrats cut throat of the working man. In fact, the Democrats work for the little man.
In which way? In which way?
Well,
they sent home. How many people got sent home?
What you have to?
Well, let me say something quick.
Okay.
So, let's be a little fair to Mr. Henry, because I don't think he is correct. I think when you say that you're a loyal Democrat, I think he's talking about the principles of the Democratic Party.
That's exactly
And I think that the principle of the Democratic Party is not what we have been experiencing.
Correct.
And so what you have is some people in the Democratic Party that are doing things that are not in concert with the principles of the Democratic Party. And maybe a little bit more, the question might be a little unfair for him to answer because he can only speak for himself. And so I'm just saying that the Democrats didn't send home 2,500 people. John D. Young sent home 2,500 people.
Under the guise of the Democratic Party.
Under the guise of the Democratic Party. But it would be unfair for us to label the Democratic Party as the institution who acted in that way.
In a way, yes, because the Senate approved it. The Senate could have stopped it, but they approved it.
Right, and there are 50 people who did that. It's not,
all Clint basically asking you is whether or not you're willing to go along to get along. That's it. Yes
right,
or no?
so then we should ask it that way.
Yes.
That's it. That's what you're asking.
Are you going to have your own independent mind when you go in the legislature?
Well, the way how I operate this way. I do a survey. First, I study the history of the issue. I do a survey. Based upon the survey that I've collected, that's when I would decide to make a judgment call on that. But at the same time too, it depends, because sometimes it is good to have what do you call this, town hall meeting on issues, and that has not been happening. And I can understand some of both you and Clint. I can understand where you are coming from, but my thing is that the people would be my boss, and I should get the directive from the people. And how should I get that directive from the people? Is through town hall meetings.
But Mr. Henry, one of the things that have taken place for the past several years is special legislation.
Yeah.
The governor calling special session. All of these things taking place, and the voters are not given a chance to talk about how they feel about a certain bill or certain policy that's going to be enacted by the legislature. The legislature then acts, and then saying it's acting in the best interest of the people.
But in fairness,
how
to
do we
Mr.
then
Henry,
change those kind of things taking place?
But in fairness, if you don't mind, in fairness to Mr. Henry, I like what he's saying, because he's trying to stick to the actual tenets of what the Democratic Party was founded on. You know, unfortunately, he's one man in a sea of many. So unless you are able to get the others to come on board your line of thinking, of saying, because I applaud you, it's nice to hear somebody say, the people who put me in there, y'all are my boss, I must listen to you. So I congratulate you and I applaud you for that. But I think what Clint's question is how do you get the others to come on board with that same mindset?
Do you have the skill set?
I have the skill set
to bring them along.
Oh sure, I have the skill set because I've applied that skills so many times in situations where I had to. I see myself in the legislature as a glue. You always have two fractions. You have what we call the majority and the minority. I see myself as the glue between those two. So that's the way how I operate.
Well, as we're running out of time, I want you to share with the people, the audience, and to our listening viewers where they can find you if they want to ask you some more questions,
Yes.
And learn a bit more about you.
Yes, sir. My name is Omar Henry. I'm number 10 on the Democratic primary ballot comes August 2nd. You can reach me at my cell at 643-7038. That's my cell. Or you can email me at obuhenry@uplink.net.
Mr. Henry, I thank you so much for coming on the show tonight, and I wish you much luck come for the primary.
I thank you for the spirited conversation.
Yes. Thank you so much. When we return, we will have Mr. Neville James back in a moment. Good evening and welcome back to VI Voices. We have with us now Mr. Neville James, who is seeking the Democratic nomination for his party, Democratic Party, to the 31st Legislature of the Virgin Islands. And Mr. Former Senator James is no stranger to the Democratic scene and or the legislature, as you were a senator before. And so welcome to VI Voices. This is not your first time here. You were here with us the last time, and so welcome back to VI Voices.
You got it.
Talk to us a little bit about why you've decided to come back and run again for a seat in the legislature.
Well, good evening to VI Voices. Pleasure to be here. I was glad you asked this question because I want to make something very, very clear. If I thought that the 30th legislature had delivered the goods, then I would have not run. There's no reason for me to run. As a basketball coach, you learn early on that if things are going well, there's no need to try to fix what isn't broken. In my opinion, and just an opinion, I don't think that the 30th legislature exuded the kind of chemistry that's necessary right now for the St. Croix agenda to move forward. Plus, you're out in the public and folks are asking you if you're getting back in, we want you back in. So, I weighed all those factors. Of course, this particular election cycle is like no other because we're in an economic quandary like we've never been before. It's just hard for me to really be soliciting financial support at a time when we're struggling. So that's the dilemma that we're dealing with. But I believe I bring some attributes that the legislature appreciated for 8 years and that they could use in 2015 and 2016. So I'm in the race.
And in that 8 years that you've been there, in your opinion, what's the reason why the people remove you from the legislature? And what do you intend to do to fix that?
Well, the electorate supported me the first 4 times, so I have never been a crybaby. When you run 5 times and win 4, that means you were good 80% of the time. So from a percentage standpoint, for me to complain because they decided to go in a different direction, I don't want to do that. As it relates to the election itself of 2012, I think one of the things that hurt me was that we didn't have a primary in 2012. And I'm a bad politician from the standpoint that I'm not really good at making a lot of promises that could go over well from a campaigning standpoint. And I need the primary process to practically reintroduce myself to the public. I might try to bring an analytical approach. I'm not big with the rah-rah. I could get loud like everybody else, but I just believe at this juncture, we need a high level of aptitude, we need discipline, and we need those who are not afraid to talk to those who could provide the capital that we need, because St. Croix cannot move forward if the Virgin Islands doesn't acquire capital at this particular juncture.
Senator, I'm going to say this. You've heard me talk before you came on. And people would not think, I'm a card-carrying member of the Democratic Party.
Yes.
And you have been one of those Democrats I've been proud of. Because I think you have stood your position, but you have also been one of those Democrats that have been maligned by your party throughout. I can remember people talk about the Diageo vote. I can remember how
I've been vindicated 6 years later.
Correct. And you talked about the numbers in all of that. And I was looking over it. The people that were not misled. They said that Diageo would have brought $100 million in revenue
per year.
And it probably did bring $100 million in revenue. However, what about all the things that were taken out and how much money are we left with. Yes. Now, how do you plan to come in and put forth legislation to fill the gaps left by those money that was lost in 2008?
Well, let me address the first part of your well-articulated soliloquy there. Before Yoki is whatever political affiliation, or Emile being a Democrat, or Boyd, whoever it is, and we're Crucian.
Correct.
So to me, any Democrat on St. Croix who tells you that they're a Democrat before they are Crucian is perpetrating a fraud on the people. So I consider myself to be a Crucian Democrat, and that's just my take. As it relates to filling the void, the math didn't add up then. And of course, we found out over the last 6 years that it doesn't add up now, because we got to service debt. We provide a molasses subsidy. Additionally, the most important thing about the cover-over program is that we don't own the program. It's an instrument that was put in place by Congress that allows for us to generate revenue if rum is manufactured in the Virgin Islands and sold into the U.S. market. So now that we've borrowed so much, and you couple that with the level of subsidies, and that's the issue that we had, the 5 of us who voted no in 2008. The subsidies were too high, and we didn't even know at the time. I'm not afraid to admit that I voted for it just based on looking at it on its face. We didn't even know at the time that the competition in Puerto Rico had capped the subsidies at 10%. So in other words, VI Voices, when you're competing against somebody, you compete against what your competition is making available. So there's no need for you to give away 43% if the competition is only is capped at giving you 10. What happened to 15 and 20? And now we're paying the price for that. So in order to fill the void, given what we're dealing with economically, we need to acquire capital. And my understanding is that we're right at our borrowing capacity. So we're going to need some level of bailout from the federal government. I don't know if we could use what excess we could have, listen carefully, what excess we may have as it relates to the cover over program, and use that to get a loan from the federal government, because we could do that as well. Instead of going to the bond market and paying these high costs for fees, why not borrow from he who makes the money available to us on an annual basis?
It's interesting that you said that, though, because last week we had a gentleman on our show, Mr. Colin Hodge, who exclaimed that the DRD is the best deal ever. I don't know how he came to that conclusion, but it's very different than you who are actually in the Senate. And what I'm getting from you is that you voted for it, but you're looking at
I voted against it.
You voted against it, and that what you are seeing, I think you use the word vindicated, indicates to me that there are problems with that deal.
Well, we need to get in contact with Puerto Rico, because both of us are losing, us being the people of the Virgin Islands and the people of Puerto Rico, because now we're recycling money back to the private side. And that was not the intent when they created the program back in the day.
That's correct.
The Cover Over program was created for the territories and the insular possessions to have money to provide for its people. End of discussion. Not to be used as a leveraging tool to get companies to come here, and then the next thing you know, after you're dealing with debt service. For instance, my understanding is the contribution to the general fund in 2015, after $230, $40 million of cover over revenue, is going to be $28 million. That's less than 10%. I mean, you don't have to be a brilliant mathematician to know that particular formula is not working out for us as a people.
That's what you call Reagan economics. But we're also in with the World Court with the other Caribbean islands who are rum producers now. So we not only have Puerto Rico nipping at our heels.
We have a legal issue as well.
Right. We have another legal issue with the World Court. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But if I can jump in quickly, right? Because I'm reading your prime sponsor legislations, and you have Act 6836 talking about reestablishing the farming industry of the U.S. Virgin Islands. My question is 2 tier. So you probably already know what the one standard question is. But how do you see that act as it is today? Do you see that it has benefited us in any which way? And if not, do you see where legalization of marijuana and hemp, I need to make sure, that I include both strains of cannabis, can help shore that up so that we can be in the green side of this money-making thing with agriculture and so forth?
Well, Act 6836 I was a primary co-sponsor along with Senator Terrence Positive Nelson in my first term as a freshman in the 26th legislature. We passed that in 2006. It has never been followed by the administration that took over in 2007. There are, to me, that's comprehensive legislation. There's a mandate within that legislation, a provision that requires a $500,000 appropriation to the Department of Agriculture on an annual basis. They have, to my understanding, they've never done that. So my thinking is now that if St. Croix was St. Thomas as it relates to land size, that money would have been made available. Unfortunately, agriculture is not that big in St. Thomas as it could be in St. Croix. I know the farmers in Bordeaux really appreciated what Act 6836 could have provided. But for whatever reason, the current administration did not embrace the need for agriculture it's clear as day. Food is an inflexible commodity. If you could grow here, you could reduce costs because you're importing so much food. You could live healthier. I mean, it's a no-brainer, but apparently St. Croix has gotten shortchanged over the year, and hopefully if I get reelected, I can make an argument on behalf of St. Croix that, look, we're in bad shape. The best time to start feeding yourself is when you're hurting, and right now that's the best time. As it relates to hemp, I support hemp now. I do not support the legalization of marijuana now for the simple reason that we have other societal issues that we need to address. I don't believe that our crime rate is at the level where we can make that radical change and legalize marijuana, simply because if Clint Ferris decided that he wanted to be a legal marijuana grower, the criminal element, to me, right now has the better of the legal side as it relates to committing crimes, number one, and of course that's a byproduct of education. Everything is integrated, so I don't support legalizing marijuana at this juncture. Maybe down the road when things are better, but right now I don't think we should go that route. Decriminalization, that's a touchy issue because it's hard to say that you're against the legalization of marijuana, but you have no problem decriminalization, the use of it. If one is illegal, then you can't really have one foot here and one foot out. So, if I'm not for legalization of marijuana at this juncture, the decriminalization issue is really a non-issue.
Colorado has shown where in their police department has actually shown a 5% decrease in criminal activity since they've legalized marijuana. So, I'm hearing everybody saying that,
I'm not knocking, I'm just saying.
You've seen that even throughout other countries in the world that have legalized marijuana, there's a decrease in criminal activity.
Our opinion as it relates to marijuana and the proliferation of marijuana use. All I'm saying is we can't use Colorado as a good gauge compared to the Virgin Islands because we are completely surrounded by water. In Colorado, they're protected. They're a part of the contiguous 48. They're surrounded by states. They're not even a coastal state. So I don't really think we should compare that. But props to Colorado for taking that quantum leap, and if it's working,
well, in that regard, then talk to me a little bit about what are your plans, your concrete plans for revenue generation in the territory of new money, not old money, new money.
Well, I think the tourism industry, I know a lot of people start clearing their throats and all that stuff, but when we made the move from agrarian to heavy industry in the 60s, we got away from agriculture. And then when we had the unfortunate situation in 72 at Fountain Valley, it appears that there were those who were glad that happened. That way they could use that as some device to undermine tourism here on the island of St. Croix. It's sad that when you still go to America, people still asking you, wait a minute, aren't you from where that Fountain Valley issue was? And I tell them, yeah, but I'm hurting for everybody else, but that's not the only place that we had a massacre as it relates to the loss of life. I'm not promoting the loss of life, but it happened in Jamaica, it happened on other islands. Why are we being penalized to the extent that we are? Additionally, we need more airlift, and I believe a commissioner back in the day on the mine St. Croix, when he said that he didn't want planes to overnight on St. Croix, and if they don't want to stay here, they could go to Puerto Rico. And that was a St. Thomas commissioner, I think it was Commissioner Eric Dawson. Yep. And since then, of course, we had Hugo in '89, and we got a 25-year anniversary coming up with that. And we lost a lot of hotel rooms, so we need to get back into construction of hotel rooms. I'm promoting casino development at Carambola, but I don't want casino development in St. Croix if it's about targeting the local people to gamble. I want us to get airlift to bring new money in so people from outside could get into gaming, because as it stands right now, DV is not living up to their mandate in terms of marketing St. Croix and the DV Hotel and bringing people outside, because the appetite for local gaming was much more than they ever anticipated, and they've been living off of that for 14 years.
We have GRS, we have PFA, that is allowing to, like GRS allow seaborn to grow, flourish, and then depart. PFA is there. How do we utilize instrumentalities like the GRS, PFA, WICO to help grow our tourism product, especially in the island of St. Croix, especially in the area of hotel development?
And if I can add to that, then what do you see as our perfect tourists coming here?
Our niche?
Yeah, you know, what type of tourists do you see coming here?
Well, from what I understand, the neighboring islands have an awesome relationship with the European tourism community, and they have charters going into St. Martin and St. Kitts, and we need to focus on. I think right now we have a Denmark thing going on, and that goes on in the winter time, and that's very successful. They come on Wednesday with a plane load, pick up those who are here, and they do that for a number of months, so that works. I still believe the Northeast corridor is where the money's at, and that's what we need to focus on, get them in here, because they're looking for places to go, and I'm just dumbfounded at the idea that we're an English-speaking American jurisdiction, and we don't really get the kind of tourism activity that we should. So maybe it's a marketing issue. I don't really want to get into knocking the Department of Tourism, because I think they've done a good job. I just think that they're not doing enough, and they could do more. You know,
they're not marketing St. Croix, period.
And I had an experience at the Dock James racetrack in 2000. I'll never forget this. Canadian couple, and that's another market that we could look at as well in Canada. They normally go to Barbados for 2 weeks. They told their tourism agent, look, we want to do 1 week someplace else. They found out, well, you go to St. Croix, and the man tell me he fell in love, and from what I understand, he came and he bought property. So that's a regular routine here. So, you know, St. Croix is the joint, you know, lack of a better term, you know what I mean? We talk about the but St. Croix is the joint, and I think St. Croix is the most beautiful.
And it can be a joint. Right? But I want to go back to her question, because I don't necessarily understand why you think the issue of decriminalization of marijuana is moot.
No, I didn't say it was moot.
Okay.
I said that if I am not for supporting legalizing marijuana at this time, then I don't think that decriminalizing the use of something that I don't believe should be legal, you know, it creates a problem. There's just, you know, the dichotomy there isn't working out.
But
you know,
this way,
because decriminalizing marijuana when it ain't legal now, that to me goes against sound lawmaking.
But it doesn't go without penalty. Decriminalizing would mean, rather than arrest someone and have them go to jail, they will get more of a civil penalty as opposed to
decriminalization isn't a word then. Maybe we need to find the right word.
No, because if you get a traffic ticket in a crime, you're paying a civil penalty. So it'll be the same thing, where as opposed to you being arrested and having...
I agree with what you're saying.
Right.
I just don't think that decriminalization is the right term. Because there should be some penalty for using something illegal. We agree on that?
No.
Penalty.
Penalty, yes.
Penalty, that's what I said. Not go to jail.
Right.
Penalty. Fine, whatever it is, right? So I don't know if decriminalization is the right terminology.
See, think about it this way.
I think we're on the same boat.
What you would be decriminalizing is, let's say, if you had only 6, do they do the ounces? I don't know.
Ounces.
Marijuana.
Yeah.
Okay.
So ounces is like personal possession.
Let
me answer the question this way. If you're found in possession of marijuana, I don't believe sending you to jail if you're found in possession of marijuana is the way to correct the issue.
That's what happening now.
And that's what happening now.
What's happening now?
So if that means that I am for decriminalization of marijuana because of that, so be it.
Okay, but I don't want to make sure. I didn't think that I got from you when you fully understood what you said.
Because I think the bigger issue should be education and discouraging of use if it's not for medicinal purposes.
Okay,
that's my suggestion.
Currently, you've been in there before. You know that you've been around the block a few times. You know what's going on. You have a good understanding of what's happening in the Virgin Islands. Our healthcare system right now is in crisis.
Yes.
Do you have a plan to deal with that?
Everything that has to do with healthcare requires capital, money. So I could come here tonight and say I have a healthcare plan.
Right.
But in reality, no plan can work if you don't have money to implement the plan. that's not to say that the plan that they have right now isn't working. Maybe it isn't working because they don't have capital. Their plan could actually be sound. If they don't have capital, you can't implement that particular plan. So I think our big issue now is getting the federal government to do what they're supposed to do. A lot of people get offended when you talk about a reliance on the federal government. We're still an American jurisdiction, and they have a responsibility. The Department of Interior has a responsibility to come in here, not just send CMS to do the accreditation process. Interior should be here and exercising their oversight responsibility, not coming with a whip, making sure that we have our needs. To me, that's the big issue that we should be dealing with.
And as we're running out of time, I want you to share with the audience where they can find you, if they have more questions for you, and what is your number for the primary election?
I'm at the top. I'm number 1 in a Democratic election. You can get all my information on Facebook page, Friends of Neville James 2014. Cell phone number, I never had a problem giving it out. And I want to say that I always had a personal cell phone when I was a senator, even though a phone was made available to all senators. 340-277-2875.
Thank you so very much.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for coming on. We'll be back in a moment, Mr. Sammuel Sanes. Senator Sammuel Sanes. Back in a moment. Good evening and welcome back to VI Voices. We have with us Senator Sammuel Sanes, who is seeking re-election to the 31st Legislature of the Virgin Islands. Welcome, Senator Sanes.
Thank you, sir.
And this is not your first time on VI Voices. You've been here many times before.
I consider this round 2.
Good. So welcome back.
Actually, round 3.
Yeah, wrong. So you've been here. This is your third time with us.
Yeah.
So welcome back. Let's get right into it because I'm sure everyone knows who you are, and you are seeking election again. And one of the things that I want to talk to you quickly about is the economy. And talk to us about what you've done in this past legislature, this current legislature, for revenue, to build more revenue. And what are your plans to build more revenue if you are reelected?
There are several bills that I passed that will generate some revenues. The biggest one is the enhancement of the Christmas Village in Frederickstead, which basically what we did is that we put aside $3.5 million to build a permanent village setting in order to bring back the blues festival, the jazz festival, the reggae festival that we had in the past. I think that will generate some revenues, not just for the Frederickstead, but for the entire island. Now the thing is that a couple of days ago I was talking about that at a forum, and the director of the Jamaican Music Festival, All of Clear Blues, sent me an email. He wants to come over here and talk about helping us set it up, which to me it's a big advantage. The other one the other bill that was successfully passed is called the Revenue Estimating Conference Act. And basically what it is it's a new way on how to look in the budget. In the past, we have been working on the budget, the government budget, by ourselves, the legislature, along with the executive branch. But in many states and in many areas, they have the private sector working together along with the university. So that bill incorporates the University of the Virgin Islands, the finance and the economic department, along with representative of the business sector, the private sector.
But, Senator.
Yes, sir.
I heard the first thing you said and about a permanent festival village.
Yes.
Is it good leadership to throw new money after an old fix that we already took care of back about 8 years ago? The PFA under Governor Turnbull created this whole new this project to put in a permanent festival village, upgrade Frederickstead and all of that. This administration come in, plan go right. Now you're coming back. Now you're coming 8 years later, and you're saying, okay, we're gonna bring Jamaicans in to help us. We're gonna get some consultation, and we're now gonna take new money to address a problem that was already fixed some time ago.
Was it already addressed?
Was it addressed?
It was addressed. It was addressed. PFA has the money.
But was it built?
But why aren't we not talking to PFA about
it?
that?
It wasn't built because I was one of the people that sat on the charrette.
I know.
And we sat down and we decided, we came to a decision on how it was to be looked with the ballpark, with a softball park, even with the same permanent festival village, how to deal with the gut and everything. You know, these were people from Frederiksted that took time off from their job. It was a whole week. I took a week off from my job.
And I totally understand. I totally understand.
And then to see that all this week's worth of work that private and public citizens went to put forward just get pitched away like nothing, you know. So I mean, to me, I feel like I got spit in the face.
Well, I guess the question boils down to, there was already a plan done by a charrette to get something done.
Yes.
Is it something that if you were to be re-elected, that as a legislature would go back to that plan to look at it and see if it's something that's still feasible to be done and place the money there?
I would love to incorporate that. But wherever I go, you're the one that told me that, I think a year and a half ago. Everywhere I turn, nobody has the plans, nobody has the notes.
So no PFA doesn't have it?
PFA doesn't have it. According to them, I spoke to the Department of Parks and Recreation.
James supposed to have it because he was there.
So my thing is this. I cannot wait until these individuals get off their butt to give me something. I have to move forward because we have to generate some revenues. That's, to me, in my opinion, a way of generating revenues for our territory, especially for Frederiksted. And we also have individuals, local individuals, that want to build a hotel, not outsiders now. We have Mr. Gustav James, who have an excellent economic plan, a financial plan, to bring a hotel there, owned now by locals. I think that's the way to be. Invest in ourselves in order for the money to stay here.
But Senator, the funniest thing about it is, the last time you came to a show, we had a disagreement in terms of leadership. I'm going to best go in that. Now, you are in support for the time you've been in the legislature. You are consistently supported this administration, the John DeYoung administration. You signed off on everything the John DeYoung administration did. And now you're going to go totally afield from what the administration did, because administration, you and the administration, when you saw the administration, were tied together. How can we believe that you're going to be committed to the people of St. Croix and you have yet to demonstrate that? The 8% cut that you gave with no financial documents to back it up. You're talking about the increasing grocery tax. All of those things have taken place while you were senator. How can we say that you are committed to growing our economy?
Well, first of all, when you put it that way, you put it the whole blame on the 15 senators, and it was more than 15 senators that came up with the 8%. And the thing is that we didn't vote for the 8% to save a few. We did it overall. The thing about it is this: we did save people's job, and I was not going to let the governor, the present administration, lay off thousands of people. Because when you lay off one person alone, you don't lay off one person, you lay off a family without health insurance. And that was the mentality that we had. The present administration did go ahead and lay off people, but at least we prevented a massive layoff. When it comes to the gross receipt tax, you got to remember something. The economy is super bad. The economy right now is sinking, and it's still sinking. And we did that with the knowledge that it would help the economy and help everyone, not just a few. So the questioning or the mentality here is that we don't do things, this senator, Sammuel Sanes, don't do things intentionally to help people. I look at the plan, I look at the idea, and I try to do what's best for everyone.
Senator, your record speaks of it. Let me ask you a question. Define massive. A population of 110,000 people, 2,500 people being sent home, 2,500 families being affected. Don't you define that as being massive?
It is massive.
You did the 8% cut. You did the gross
but that wasn't the intention. That was when we voted for that 8% cut. It was with the intention of retaining people on their jobs.
Senator,
afterwards.
So to ask it differently.
Okay.
Ask it differently. Do you then acknowledge that when you voted for that, the intent was for those things not to occur, meaning that? But it did anyway. In essence, the legislature may have been duped into doing it.
The intention was to retain everybody in their job. The intention was to keep everybody working. One of the things that I strive, one of the things that I always emphasize is this. When you, and I said it again, and I'm going to say it again. When you lay off somebody, you just don't lay off somebody financially. You lay off somebody in terms of health. Right now, we have what? A large percentage of individuals without health insurance. Why add on to that? That was my intent.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question. A community of 100,000 people, correct? We don't get billions of dollars annually from the federal government. Why do you think that we're such in such a financial crisis currently, receiving all of this money?
Because we're not managing it. My thing is this: we're not managing it properly.
But who's we? Is that the young administration or the legislature that's not managing?
Let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
The fact of the matter is this: do we get all the information we need in order to make a more accurate budget? No, we don't. Over and over again, you can hear us asking for information, getting information 6 months later. Which is why this bill, the one that I talk about, the Revenue Estimating Conference bill, is so important. It is so important because we're going to bring both players, both the private sector and the public sector, together to do a budget.
Let me ask a question.
What is it called? The revenue what?
No?
Your bill. The revenue what?
Revenue Estimating Conference Act.
Okay, let me ask you a question. It's going to be two, but quickly. Doesn't the Senate, the legislature have subpoena power? So if y'all wasn't getting the information, then shouldn't it have been the legislature's right to go and subpoena the information?
And you're right, but if we don't know what we're trying to get, if we don't know exactly, if they send us a document, how can we verify that document is authentic? The fact of the matter is that we want the power, and we do have the power now, because remember, we passed that law just recently, I'm trying to remember, under Bill and Young, to look into the records itself. And that's what we need. We need more transparency. Hopefully, with the upcoming administration, we'll be able to sit together and put together those documents instead of just waiting for those documents to arrive from one entity alone, which is the finance department.
Senator, no, the irony in it is this. I remember sitting down with you in 2012, September 2012, and it was a rather contentious show. And we asked you about the 8%, and Senator, you know what you said?
Well, it wasn't a contentious show, it was a contentious discussion with
you and him. You know what you said? Senator, you said you were provided enough information by the administration to make a clear decision on the 8%, and now you're coming forward 2 years later saying we have not been given good financial administration by the administration.
Okay.
What are you going to say? Are you going to either say you own it, or you disown it now because it's politically expedient?
No, I'm not going to disown the fact that I voted for the 8% because I did it with the best intention in mind. I did it with the intention of retaining people in their jobs. It may not have been the wise decision or the best decision, but at that time, a majority of the individuals thought that it was the best decision in the interest of the people.
In 2012, you told us, and again, I'm going to not harp on it anymore. In 2012, you said you had the information. You're running for re-election. You said, listen to me. I had the information. I made the best possible decision because the administration gave it to me. You're now telling me the administration did not give it to me. No, what I'm asking you, is it more politically expedient to distance yourself from John DeYoung, know that he's not running for re-election and he's not going to be a governor, and so you can get re-elected?
No. I have not distanced myself from nobody or from any decision that I made. I stand firm in my decisions. I've always stand firm in my decisions all the time. I made decisions based on the knowledge that I received and based on the information that I received. I'm not going to stand here and punked out and say this and that. I will tell you straight out. I made a decision. It might not have been the best decision at that time, but it was the decisions that I made based on the facts that I received at that time.
So
I am not going to back up. I would never back out from any decisions that I made in the past.
Speaking about decisions, talk to us about the Hovensa Amendment. And you voted up on it. You were a staunch supporter of the Hovensa
Yes, I am.
Amendment. Okay, explain to us why.
It's
primarily because your constituents, in my opinion, the majority of your constituents didn't want it again. Or wanted the senators to do what they did initially, which was voted down. You voted it up both times.
I voted up both times.
Exactly. Explain that to us, please.
I voted up on both times because right now we're in such a financial crisis that we need jobs, we need security. The fact of the matter is this. What else do we have right now on the table waiting for us? We really don't have much. I kept asking, what is plan B? What is plan C? I even went down to Z. Don't receive anything. At that time, it was the best issue. I mean, it was the best thing on the table, and I decided that I'm going to support it. I work in Hovensa. My father worked in Hovensa. My two brothers work in Hovensa. Many individuals that I know have worked in Hovensa, sent their kids to school, have been able to pay their homes, and many other things. It did contribute to the economy. So that's the reason why I voted for it.
So I respect anybody's decisions on the Senate floor. I think when you go to as a senator or in any position, whatever decision you make, as long as it's informed, it is what it is. I don't agree with the decision to pass the Hovensa deal. I think that the Hovensa deal was not in the best, or it was not negotiated in the best interest. I don't believe that it was negotiated in the best interest of the people of the Virgin Islands. I don't think that the deal as it is really gives the protection that the Virgin Islands people should have. I understand your position that you're in this catch-22 hard place, and it's either about get something or nothing at all. And I think that what I have seen happen to the legislators since we've had the Young administration is people come in from the executive branch and browbeat that's not really the right word I want to use, but come in there and give you this, take it now, or else all this doom and gloom is going to happen. And what it does is it puts the Senate in a situation where you're going to have to make that decision, and they're telling you, do it, or all these other people that are going to vote for you later are going to believe that you're not working for them. I think that's what happened in the Hovenza deal. I think you all were right the first time when you all said no to it. Because as a lawyer, I will say to you, there were a lot of things in there that didn't make any sense to me. That if I represented Hovenza, that's exactly the kind of deal I would have brokered if I represented them. And I never understood how the Attorney General, who is supposed to protect the people of the Virgin Islands, will come in and say, yep, that's a good deal. When the property taxes alone that they would owe surpasses the $50 million that you're going to get.
That's right. That right there will tell you that perhaps it was best to have an elected Attorney General than an appointed.
No, I don't think
elected Attorney General. We had 15 senators who were there who basically were Mama Guys. Basically, y'all were Mama Guys. Let me ask my question.
Yeah.
Okay? We're talking about economic development, economic stability, and we're looking at marijuana. Senator Nelson has a bill in for the legalization of cannabis indica and cannabis sativa. Are you in favor of...
Okay, you can tell me what I mean?
Sorry, cannabis indica is hemp, cannabis sativa is marijuana.
Okay.
Okay? Are you in favor of decriminalization or legalization?
Well, the previous speaker did point it out in terms of the reference to decriminalization. I do believe in decreasing the penalty when it comes to possession. I do believe that. It is still illegal.
Do you believe in increasing the penalty
No,
when it comes
decreasing.
Oh,
decreasing.
okay.
Because right now we have had, our jails is full of young men who have been busted for very minor amount of marijuana. So I do believe in decriminalization to a certain extent. Now, when it comes to legalization, my thing is, do we really have the infrastructure for that? Do we have the potential of doing it within the 2, 3, 4, 5 years in order for it to become a viable industry?
Isn't that your job?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So we need to get started. But at this time, presently, can we do it? I don't believe so.
So you believe in decriminalization?
I do believe in decriminalization.
But the legislature at this current point is not capable of putting in place the infrastructure
For what?
for legalization.
I'm not. It could happen. It could happen if we start working on it. If we start presenting a plan. But at this time, I don't think it's viable.
Let's talk about healthcare. One of the big issues that we have here is a lot of our people are having to leave the territory to go out. Cleveland Clinic is now officially an annex. I'm being sarcastic, but is now like the one we are Florida. You can go to Cleveland Clinic and see people you haven't seen in years on island, but you see them there. A lot of our people are being forced to have to leave the territory to get adequate healthcare and good healthcare. But that comes with a cost because then they have to pay for hotel rooms and all these other things. What plan do you have in place so we can deal with the issues so we can have healthcare, a good healthcare system here that we won't have to leave the territory?
We already started working with the CEO in reference to, Dr. Griffin, in reference to that. We've sat down with him several times. He has several good ideas in terms of bringing more local doctors to come here. And right now, as you know, we try to, tomorrow we'll know whether or not it's passed. We try to advance him, I think it's either $8 or $10 million, so he can keep the payroll. So there are certain plans in it. One of the things that we want to do too is to revise the billing system. And we have given him the funds necessary to bring in a new software for billing system. That's the problem with this hospital right now. It is losing a lot of revenue because it's not billing correctly. We have individuals with insurance who actually go there and do not present the insurance card and don't pay. So that's one of the problems with this hospital, is the loss of revenues. So that's one of the first things that we are trying to work with him in order for him to implement a better billing system so people can get billed. I start paying.
I have to ask quickly because I know it came up in it's in today's newspaper that how the dental board has that we have people who are not licensed, who are not registered, fixing people's mouth.
Yes.
And I mean the mouth is right. So are you in favor of giving boards the power so that they can actually penalize or do whatever it means so that we have competent doctors in the territory?
All boards should have that type of power, not just a dental board. But if you listen to him yesterday and you listen to the discussion that we had in terms of these quacks, it is kind of scary because if you think about it, dental care is actually one of the most important things. Mm-hmm. The lack of dental care leads to many other diseases, even up to Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. So I am in favor of giving enough teeth for them to go after those individuals.
Pun intended.
Pun intended.
Okay. All right. As we're running out of time, let's let the viewers know where they can find you, what your number is in the primary election.
I'm number 12. I can be reached at 690-8861. I'm always open for discussion. I'm everywhere. Even my good friend Clint knows where to reach me afterwards. So, and I want to thank you, gentlemen and lady, for giving me this opportunity. I think this is one of the shows that's reaching out to a lot of individuals. But 690-8861. I can be reached in my office, 712-2278. And Sammuel Sanes at yahoo.com. Samuel with 2 M's.
And you're number 12 on the bottom,
And I'm
right?
number 12.
All right, well, thank you so much for being on the show. I want to thank all of you all for viewing tonight. Tonight we've had some spirited discussions with 3 individuals, Omar Henry, Neville James, and Sammuel Sanes. And what we want to do here is to always remind you all to become informed on the issues that are happening and become informed so that you're able to make sound decisions in this election. We are in a very critical time, in a very critical year as it comes to our elections and where we're going to go forward and what the trajectory of where we need to be will go. And that stems from you being educated on the issues so that you're able to understand the issues and make sound decisions. And so, I say tonight, thank you for being here, Senator Sanes. I thank you all for tuning in. And be sure to let your voices be heard because they are important and we need to hear them. Good night, everybody.